While digging for information on the men that were killed in the line of duty, serving our country from my small town, I found some interesting stories. One of them had a dad who was in World War I and walked over 25 miles to sign up to join the military. And another had lost his dad when he was just 6, and then lost his mother when he was 14. That only left he and his older brother. So they went to live with their grandmother, their mom's mom, in Krum. One brother joined the military and then the other. They were only a couple years apart. And the younger one was killed in action, and the other brother escorted his flag-draped coffin home to be buried. Then he died a year later. And the last soldier who was killed in action from our small town of Krum, Texas, is the son of one of the famous Krum state basketball champions from the late 60s and 70s. And he was the grandson of my 4th grade school teacher who taught in Krum for many years. This soldier's credentials read like something from a movie script. He was a Special Forces Green Beret, and he also trained Rangers. He was an amazing person, sergeant, and instructor. Krum, Texas is a very small town in North Texas. When I moved there in 1967, there were only about 409 people registered to be living there. It was so small that we had only 4 stop signs, and they were downtown. And we only had 3 churches: Baptist, Methodist, and Church of Christ. We had 1st and 2nd grade in the same classroom at the same time, and it was taught by one teacher who was about as old as the school building was. We had an elementary school and a middle school and a separate building for the high school. The sport was basketball, and the town was known for being state champs more years than any other school in the district statewide at that time. You could leave your doors unlocked. You could leave the keys in your car without worrying. Well, enough of bragging. You get my drift. These soldiers grew up in this sort of town. I hope you enjoy their story. Private Jeffy Crouch, Company C, 124th Infantry, was born January 13th, 1887 in Texas to David Crouch and Sarah Kurtzinger. He and his family lived in the Krum area, and he enlisted in service in Krum on June 5th, 1918. Just 4.5 months later, in October of 1918, he died Camp Mills, New York, of influenza as he was awaiting transport overseas. He was married to Catherine Anderson. Private Crouch is buried at Krum Jackson Cemetery. Private William Curtis, Company M, 142nd Infantry, was born January 12, 1894, in Texas, to Homer Curtis and Naomi Goodman. He lived in the Plainview community just west of Krum and was a farmer. He enlisted in the service at Krum on June 5, 1917. On October 8, 1918, while fighting near Saint-Étienne, France, he was mortally wounded, but continued to advance, encouraging his comrades to follow him. He died October 27, 1918, of his wounds. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross and he is buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. David Paul Jackson, Jr. was only 17 when he joined the Navy on New Year's Eve, 1940. He was Seaman First Class when he died on the USS Arizona, December 7th, in the Japanese sneak attack on Pearl Harbor. He was born June 24th, 1923 in Gainesville, Texas, but grew up just 28 miles away in Krum. His father, also David Paul, was a farm laborer and later a cotton ginner. When his father was just 19, he wanted to join the Army. He wanted to so badly that he walked 25 miles at night to board a train for Fort Worth and to get to a recruiting station. No doubt that his son and his namesake wanted to follow in his footsteps and join the military. But unfortunately, David Jr. lost his life when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Most of the 1,177 men that were killed on the ship were entombed there. But Mr. Jackson was recovered and returned to Krum after the war ended. His funeral was held in 1947 at the Krum Methodist Church, and he is buried at the town's Jackson Cemetery. Private William Mitchell, son of Willis Mitchell and Mabel Boyles, was born in Missouri on May 6, 1925. He entered the service March 1944 and was trained in infantry at Fort McClellan, Alabama. He was in the 26th Infantry, Company C in Germany. Private Mitchell went overseas in November of 1944 and was reported missing 1 month later in December 1944 in Germany. Among other decorations, he was awarded the Purple Heart posthumously. The November 14, 1948 Denton Record-Chronicle reports the bodies of 3 more Denton County men were returned to this country for reburial as the United States Army transport Carroll Victory docked in New York Tuesday. Private Mitchell was one of these soldiers. Corporal John Doyle, infantry, was born February 12, 1920, to Burl Doyle and Emma Adcock of Krum. He was in the infantry during the Korean War and was killed in action. Casualty date, November 22, 1951. After his parents' death, he and his brother Billy lived with their grandmother, Mrs. John Adcock of Krum. Corporal Doyle's brother, Private Billy Doyle, which was a couple of years older, also served in Korea. He accompanied Corporal Doyle's flag-draped coffin home after his death. And it appeared that his older brother died about a year after Corporal Doyle did. Corporal Marion Radke, U.S. Army, was born February 14, 1923, to Ernest Radke and Isel Chestnut. Corporal Radke was a member of the 179th Infantry Regiment, 45th Infantry Division. He was killed in action June 15, 1952, while fighting the enemy in North Korea. Corporal Radke was awarded the Purple Heart the Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Korean Service Medal, the United Nations Service Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, and is buried in Krum, Texas. Ensign Joe Watson, U.S. Navy, was born October 22, 1950, and died on April 25, 1975, in an F-4 Phantom jet fighter while trying to land on the USS Franklin D. Roosevelt. An article from the Denton Record-Chronicle dated August 31, 1975, reports that officers said the jet landed on the flight deck and then crashed into the sea. A Navy spokesman said the gear designed to stop the plane malfunctioned. Neither the plane nor the bodies of the flyers have been recovered. Ensign Watson was the son of George Watson and Vanita Basie. Army Sergeant First Class Justin Munski of Krum was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group Airborne, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He died October 14th in Arab Jabor, Iraq, of wounds sustained when an improvised explosive device detonated near his unit while they were on patrol during combat operations. Sergeant Munski is survived by his wife Melissa, daughter Ashley, son Ryan, stepson Dylan, father Larry, and mother Patty. Not for fame or reward, not for place or rank, not lured by ambition or goaded by necessity, but in simple obedience to duty as they understood it. They suffered all, sacrificed all, dared all, and died.